Recovery Shared, your online source for all things recovery. Hi, welcome to Recovery Shared. My name is Justin. We have Michael, and our special guest today, Jackie Manley. Jackie Manley's an incredible person I know from firsthand experience. I'm blessed, and we're going to get into a little bit of who she is today in a quick Cliff Note version of your experience, strength, and hope. So, Jackie, let's start with the experience. At what age did you start to maybe think I might have an issue?
I remember feeling different my whole life. Just not a part of, always wanting to fit in. But I actually didn't start drinking until I turned 21.
Who does that?
21.
Yeah, who does that? Who starts drinking when they're supposed to?
I waited.
don't think I know one person.
I, a couple times in high school, but my family was really strict. My dad, he lived on a lake in Pennsylvania, really cool house, and he had the boathouse across the street, and he would let me throw parties, but I wasn't allowed to drink. I had to be the one in control.
Of watching the party.
So I was, always that good kid. Actually, I was voted class brownie my senior year of high school.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right?
So you were holding the other girls' hair back while they were sick from drinking. So you were the one cleaning up and babysitting other kids that were intoxicated or whatever. Mm-hmm. So never Jackie drinking.
No, never.
So then 21 came, and what happened?
Well, let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
I went away to college. My first addiction was an eating disorder, actually.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever talked to you about that.
Or
maybe.
We have, briefly.
Okay.
Briefly. Okay. So when did you know that you had an issue in that department?
Senior year of high school. And all of the girls were, dieting, going to the gym, tanning, getting ready for the prom. And, here's Jackie wanting to fit in. And, I'm super tall. So, that was always I got picked on in middle school for being so tall. And I remember in high school, one day somebody was like, "Oh, you're so tiny." And I felt good. I was like, "Oh my God, I've arrived,"
so
right?
I'm going to keep that.
I'm going to keep that. But there was no off switch. At my lowest weight, I was 100 pounds. I'm 5'10", so super unhealthy.
Yeah,
But I went to treatment at 19 for an eating disorder. And I spent 6 weeks in a hospital-like setting. Got out, did the BS IOP and saw a therapist. And, my family has always provided every outlet for me to get help. I guess, chose not to accept that help.
Or weren't ready or whatever.
I wasn't ready. I think I was in denial. But I struggled with that eating disorder from 18, 19 until I turned 21. And I remember the second I started drinking, it was all of those thoughts went away.
All of those thoughts of, I need to stay tiny.
Go to the gym, the obsession, the control with the eating disorder. Alcohol just numbed that.
So it just replaced it almost.
Totally replaced it. And I almost forgot about the eating disorder. It just went from one to another.
Was there a bunch of people in that treatment that were on drugs and alcohol and eating disorder?
Not so much. It was all females, and it was actually, I can't remember the name of the place. It was in Philadelphia, but it was almost like a psych ward. We were locked in this wing.
I was in one of those ones for 3 days.
Oh, I've been in those too. That came later.
Mike.
That came later. But no, not so much drugs and alcohol. I did end up going to treatment at 23 for my drinking,
So it really progressed quick, 21 to 23.
Yeah, it went from, Friday and Saturday night happy hour to, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then it was every night of the week. I then started bartending and working in some not so nice nightclubs.
It's amazing how we start finding jobs. I did the same thing, and it was me subconsciously or consciously fueling my drinking career, working and dating people in bars, and just that whole I really dove all in that scene. And you said that the drinking really made you forget the eating disorder. Alcohol is great at making people forget.
Oh, absolutely.
So 23, what did that treatment experience do for you as far as alcohol? And you were still no issues anymore with the eating?
Oh, no, those issues were there. I just, covered it up with half a gallon, 100 proof vodka a day.
Just drown the eating disorder.
Just straight vodka, yeah.
Did she have you beat?
I mean...
Did you have liver failure at 27 years old?
All right, she's got me beat.
I've got you beat.
All right, I tapped. But I wasn't a vodka guy either, and I hear that story a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We hear that in the rooms, that it's, when you hit the straight vodka, man.
Well, I thought
Where
you
do you
couldn't
go from
smell
there?
vodka.
Oh, yeah, that big misconception.
We talked about that
because it looks like water.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to know.
In the water
right.
bottle.
Oh, you'll reek.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Out of
it
your
was like
pores.
a walking bar. It was disgusting.
And nobody knows, though.
I was in denial. I didn't think anybody knew.
Sarah's mom used to buy those big fucking jugs of vodka.
Yeah, if it's got a handle on it, that's a big, in a day.
Yeah, I think maybe every other day.
Whew.
I was so insane. I used to have the vodka in my room, right? And then I always had airplane bottles in my purse. For some reason,
Traveling, drinking.
I was convinced, though, that if I got pulled over, that, an airplane bottle wouldn't count as, like, having a giant bottle of vodka.
Even if it was opened, you mean, you thought in your head?
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's
they
like
would
one
open
swig.
and go right down my
that's
throat.
one swig.
But
yeah,
I would travel with airplane bottles. Like, I would go out to a bar with friends and have, like, 5 in my purse after pre-gaming, and everybody thought I was a lightweight, too. That was the hilarious part. They're like, you have 2 drinks and you're wasted.
They're like, that's because I started 20 ago.
Yeah, such a lightweight. I must have not eaten enough today. And
I used to get the same thing. People be like, why are you shit-faced? You just got to the party. It's your first beer. Little do they know.
Yeah.
Dude, I started the party 15 hours ago. Where have you guys been? All 10 of you that I'm looking at one person. So, did it help going to treatment at 23?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I thought that I was better than everybody. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who my family is? I only drink. And so I was very sheltered growing up. And, my dad was an alcoholic, but I never saw him drink. I was never, I knew he went to treatment a couple of times, but he got sober when I was 11, right? So I was never exposed to the, alcoholic parent. Like, he had the isms, but I never once saw my dad drunk.
You just didn't, it wasn't in front of you.
Never in front of me. I think I was 23, 24 when he relapsed, after having, a huge chunk of time. And that was the first time I ever saw him drunk. And I'm so grateful that, he kept that from me as a child. But
that if there was a time to be able to handle it, it was adult eyes watching
How long did that last?
Did my dad drink?
No, how long did he... Right, so after he started again...
When he relapsed, yeah.
Did he go right back?
He never stopped. He actually... So I was 11. He had 13 years sober. 11 when he got sober. He started drinking when I was 24.
Right.
And he actually passed away 4 years ago in October.
Still drinking?
Still drinking. Yeah. So... it's frightening. It's frightening to see my grandfather, also alcoholic, So I knew what alcoholism was.
Yeah.
I knew what it did to people. I went to Alateen really young, like 11, 12.
And the extremes of what it does, you saw.
Exactly. But when I went to treatment, so I remember my roommate in treatment, she smoked crack, and she was this really cute, pretty little blonde girl, and she was like, yeah, I sold my grandmother's engagement ring, and I robbed my mom, and I remember just thinking, oh, I'm nothing like you
I'm not as bad as this.
And I just was so closed off to it. What I took from treatment was a boyfriend.
That's what you got out of
That's what I got out of treatment.
Rehab romance.
I didn't even know what the 12 steps were after that first month. I remember going to a meeting, and they were talking about the steps, and I'm like, what are they talking about?
After going a month of treatment?
After a month in treatment.
Wow.
I tuned it all out. I tuned everything out.
It makes you wonder that makes me wonder, like, what in the hell were they going over for a month with you? If you go to a meeting after a month of treatment and you go, what's this step thing they're talking about? What did you talk about for a month?
I don't even remember. I remember doing a gratitude list every morning. That part I remember. And I had nothing to be grateful for at that time. So, I'd wake up and I'd, write some
I'm grateful I'm not my roommate. I'm grateful I'm not my roommate.
But being 23 years old and never even seeing, hard drugs, not knowing what they were, people are talking about shooting up, and I thought they were talking about guns. Like, that's how naive I was.
Yeah, super naive. Now, what, it sounds like you had a lot of entitlement as well.
Oh, yeah.
How often do you see, because you work in treatment now, how often do you see the young Jackie?
Oh my God, every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. And I want to shake these kids because, I tell them, like, you don't have to do what I did, and spend years in and out. And I mean, I don't remember the majority of my 20s. I got sober at 27.
Was that the only treatment, that when you were young?
No. Okay. I moved down here, I want to say, right when I turned 24. So I went to this treatment, and then I went to this, like, boot camp, all-female halfway house for 5 months.
Which one?
It was called Mountainside Estate for Women, and the owner, Ange, she's amazing. I actually referred a girl to her a couple of years ago, a girl that was just like me. And had I been open to getting sober, that place would have done wonders for me. I had no desire to get sober at that time. And I really thought that I could learn how to drink like a lady, and I tried numerous times.
Successful.
All right, there's a guy in California who has a book that teaches you how to drink like a lady. He swears by it, people swear by it. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but he has a book. And
It's
he has a podcast.
so good that I was not a chick.
Too.
Because I would have been such a drunk whore.
No, he teaches you how to drink. He teaches you how to drink like a young man too. If you're an alcoholic, that's his thing.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Good luck to you, buddy. Yeah. I like that picture that's at Oasis that says this is a picture of the alcoholic that drank successfully.
Yeah.
There's no picture.
There's no one there, right?
So,
I had a sponsor one time. I got into an argument with her about, the fact that I could drink. And I remember saying, I think I was maybe like 25, and I'm like, I'm young, I don't do drugs. And she said, fine, go out and have one drink then. Let me know how that works out. I'm like, yes, challenge accepted. And I remember all day long, so first clue, I was obsessed all day long. I was so excited. Like,
I could
go drink.
Yeah.
Like, that's not normal, right? But I couldn't see that at the time. And I went to the bar, and I walked up to the bartender. I said, hi, I would like one double shot of 151. And he looked at me like I had 5 heads, right? And he's
You're
like,
going to get the most bang for your buck.
Right?
In that one drink.
Yeah.
But that's how sick I was. I'm
Well,
like,
one Long Island, top shelf, making a triple.
But a double shot. And I drank it, and I got a little buzz. And I remember thinking, like, yes, I have conquered. I've conquered this. And I can do this every single night. And I called her the next day, and she's like, you just don't get it. Like, normal people don't drink 151.
Yeah.
Normal people don't obsess all day long that they can go out and have just one double shot of 151. And, like, I still didn't get it.
Obsessed over it all day.
All day.
Yeah, that's alcoholic thinking. Now, what, after 2 treatments and a couple relapses and you just not getting it, what was finally the bottom? What finally made you buy into this design of living?
Well, so I moved here... Was I 24? My dad started drinking, and I saw how it quickly, he was like Superman, right? He was fun and spontaneous, and we were always like, let's go deep sea fishing, let's go snow skiing, like always doing something, and he just like was nothing, like he laid on a couch and like could not stop drinking. And so I knew, right, like this is what it's going to do, but I thought I still had more time. And so I started going to meetings, because when I moved down here, I got into a relationship, in a blackout, and like the next year of my life was a blackout. And then that relationship ended with a restraining order. And so I realized like, hey, I don't know anybody here. I've been here for over a year. And I started going to the Oasis Club. And the cool thing about this program and the fellowship, people love you before you can love yourself, right?
We hear that a lot, yeah.
And so people would see me, come around. And it started with, hey, let's get coffee, or hey, who's your sponsor? And I met people that were friends, like true friends. That
Selfless.
Selfless, completely selfless, and it's kind of an awkward thing to be, the girl that's hungover hanging out with a bunch of sober people. My friend Callista, I love her to death. We joke about this all the time, but we used to go to the beach on Saturdays, and I would always say to her, "Oh, I just had like one drink last night," and she knew.
Yeah.
And I'd have to like sneak off and go throw up and like chug Gatorade and pop Motrin, and I would always be so hungover.
Have your game face on.
Yeah, but she never once,
shot the wounded.
No, she just always included me and welcomed me, and the cool thing is like years later she relapsed and. I was able to help her get into treatment.
You loved her back.
Exactly. And, like, that's what this program has done for me. And so the people loved me before I could love myself. And then after a while, it was like, hey, you're a disaster. Like, and that started a revolving door of detoxes down here for me.
Okay.
I did treatment once down here, but I did a lot of detoxes. I was Marchman acted by friends down here.
True friends.
True friends.
Yeah.
True friends.
That care about they just want you to be the best Jackie you can be. Mm-hmm. And that's what you find in recovery. And it's the complete opposite of when you used to sit on a bar stool in a blackout and promise the stranger next to you the stars, the sun, and the moon. Mm-hmm. Right? So then you got sober.
Then I got sober. Had no intentions of getting sober. I went over to a friend's house for dinner, and she looked at me and said, "You drank again last night, didn't you?"
Just knew off.
Just knew. She knew me. She knew me really well. She was about 2 years sober. I met her when she had about 90 days sober.
Oh, wow.
So she watched me for almost 2 years.
And she progressed as you continued the wash cycle.
But still, always had her hand out for me. And I meant to say no. And I said yes. And then I was like, how do I take this back?
What'd I do?
And she said, go to a meeting. And I went to a meeting that night. And I went back to her house. I actually detoxed on her couch from alcohol and Xanax, which was not fun.
Not recommended.
Not recommended.
Do it medically supervised.
Yes.
But you made it through that.
I made it through, and it was so miserable. And I think for me, remembering, it was just 10 days of hell. For a while that kept me sober because I was so sick, and detox just wasn't an option anymore. Even though my dad was a disaster at that time, he wasn't willing to pay. I didn't have an insurance card that I could, use at every treatment center.
Misuse.
Yeah. I think back then, it covered like 30 days, and I had already used that up. And my dad had, cash paid for a couple detoxes, and I had gone to CARP a few times, which was miserable. The ER doctors knew me. I would go into the ER, so September of 2010, I was in the Gardens ER 12 times that month, begging for Librium or Ativan.
That's 3 times a week.
12 times. Med seeking, because I just... I wanted to stop, and I would feel so sick. And I never even realized that I was, really withdrawing from alcohol. But I would wake up and shake and, kind of like go in and out. And 12 times that month. And so I remembered that pain. And when I got through it, I never wanted to feel that way again.
Yeah. I heard the other day that it's not that the gates of heaven open for us when we find recovery and let us in. It's that the gates of hell open and let us out. Mm-hmm. And that's so true. And you kind of had to run through that hell and get it out of you. Kind of pay it forward, detox, and now you're in the heaven part. So what's it like for you now? What has sobriety given you?
God, a lot. It's been almost 8 years, which is crazy. Considering I couldn't make it 8 minutes, but I would say the first 2 years I was really like hardcore AA, sponsorship meetings all the time, really got involved. And, and then life happened, and I started working in treatment when I was like 7 months sober, actually. And I had the...
It's like him.
Yeah.
I actually started 3 months sober.
3 months sober, that's right.
I did. And I wouldn't recommend that to anybody either.
No.
I was managing a halfway house at 3 months. 3 months old, I said, which is true. An infant trying to teach other infants to walk.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't keep a job, you know. I have multiple jobs now.
Yeah, how would Jackie of old be able to handle the moving parts and giant plate of the Jackie? I mean, it's impossible.
It's impossible. I mean, I was actually talking to a friend on the way here, and I'm like, I need a little balance right now. You know, I work for Daylight full time now, which is amazing. And I teach yoga and meditation groups at a couple other treatment centers.
Which is something you love too, because you and I, actually, the first meeting I ever went to you with was when we took the clients back in the day when we worked together.
To the meditation.
To the meditation
yeah.
meeting, which is so cool. And because that particular meeting is Hinduism in the 12 steps, which is so cool. I never even knew that existed. So look, there's plenty of different angles out there. If you're looking for an alternative to your traditional 12-step programs, this lady took me to a meeting that I had never even heard of. And by the time I went to that meeting, I had been to 1,000 meetings before that. Never even knew that stuff like that existed. So seek and you shall find all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, today, you don't just go to AA and get a sponsor and do the steps. Like, it's a different world today. And
it's not the 30s, yeah.
You know, there's smart recovery. I know a lot of people that are involved with Christ Fellowship.
Yeah, and Celebrate Recovery.
Celebrate Recovery. You know, I took some time off from meetings after having years sober and working the steps.
Yeah.
But I, you know, was doing a lot of yoga and meditation, and that was just my path, you know, and I always go back to meetings in the 12 steps, right?
Sure.
Like that's my foundation.
That's the root, yeah.
But, you know, life today it's insane. I have a 3-year-old.
Really good looking kid.
He's amazing.
I'm trying to get the kid in film. I'm trying to. I can promote that face.
Yes, he's amazing. But you know, I would always say, "Oh, I don't want to have kids." But I think I always thought that I'd never be able to have a child or I couldn't take care of myself.
Right.
You know, and we had a girl graduating the IOP program last night, and she's leaving the program to go home and be a mom to her kids, and her boyfriend is staying in the program, and it was the most beautiful thing because
how the hell did you guys swing that, or Debbie swung it?
I don't know, but let me tell you,
Debbie probably swung it.
It just I've worked with a lot of places that take couples, and you know, when I first heard of couples, you know, going to treatment together, you know, my judgmental self was like, oh no, that's not a thing. I think that's
the most people snap judgment at that, yeah.
To see it, you know, to see how Debbie and the staff managed to, you know, help this girl realize, you know, I'm going to go home and be a mom and he's going to stay here. And he was so supportive and it was just the most beautiful thing. And what I said to her was, you know, being a sober mom is the greatest gift. You know, it's the greatest gift.
Being truly present.
Being present, you know, and I've watched a lot of people, unfortunately, over the 11 years that I've been here, you know, get the gifts of the program, right? And get married and have the family and the house and the good job and, you know, the shiny new SUV in the driveway. And a lot of those people aren't here. I know 2 mothers right now that are choosing drugs over their beautiful children. And, you know, for today, that's not my story. I hope that that's never my story. You know, the pain of losing my father in sobriety, you know, and watching him choose alcohol over, you know, a beautiful life that he could have had. You know, I don't ever want my son to feel that pain, you know, and so I'm able to show up and be a mom, and it's not easy. And
I think you watching other, you know, like you said, you know, these 2 moms right now, and having watched your dad, and then your own unique, really in and out in the beginning, the struggle, I think that all that stuff keeps you anti-complacent in a lot of ways. You know, for me, what does that is I'm from here. So, like, I drive, to get here even, I have to drive past where I was going to kill myself, where my best friend overdosed, where I gave my father's eulogy half drunk. I have to pass just those 3 locations to get to work. The past is right there for me. So
if you stop going to meetings which I'm not saying you have to keep going, but you need to find something else to fill that hole. If you stop going to meetings and you find something like church or whatever, a lot of times, I've seen that work for many, many, many people. But if you stop going to meetings and you don't replace that with like some spiritual kind of thing, that's
I think for
that's
her,
where you end up like people that are 6 years sober and they stop going to meetings
and have the house
but they
system,
didn't
as you
replace
said,
it with any like
healthy.
anything.
But for her, and I think this is important for anybody watching out there that's in those first couple years, is she built a really solid foundation in the beginning.
Yeah.
She went to a million meetings in the beginning, way before she started going to less meetings. She built that really strong foundation that she said she still goes back to that root. From that, she found these great, healthy lifestyle hobbies and stuff that she really enjoys that have fed her. But she's outside those meetings, like you said, she's doing really good mental health routines.
Absolutely.
And I always share this, I don't go to a ton of meetings now, right? But I'm open about it, and I've had people, in the program almost shame me for it. I'm reading this book.
Shit, they'd shame the hell out of me.
There's this book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah,
and
I read it.
It's amazing because I think just this past year I've seen a shift. I've always cared about others' opinions and what they think of me, and I truly don't give a shit anymore. Like, I don't care, and
it's such a better freedom.
Freeing. It's so freeing.
Really, your opinion of me is none of my business.
I excel in not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
They say meeting makers make it. That meeting makers make meetings.
They do, and I think everybody has their path, and when I'm out of my mind, I do go to a meeting. I go back to basics, but I go to a women's meeting where there are ladies with 20, 30, 40 years sober.
Right.
I always tell clients, if you ever see me at the Oasis Club at 8:30 at night, I am not there for sobriety. I have to go to women's meetings. I have to stay plugged in. I talk to people in recovery daily, and that's just my path and what's worked for me. But, I kind of try to live by, just the mindset of like being kind to others, and doing the next right thing and helping others. And
that's the big part of,
exactly.
That's like the most part of what even AA is. So if you're still doing the helping others and like giving it away and all of that, to me, that's like one of the biggest things that AA even does.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people...
We're trying to do it on like a millions of people scale.
Yeah, sure. And because that's where we can help the most. You're trying to get the most bang for your buck, the most flash in your dash of your life.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a misconception for a lot of addicts and alcoholics in early recovery. They think that the streets are going to be barricaded and there's going to be a parade thrown for them when they get clean and sober.
Yes.
And it's like, listen, if you look at the 12 steps... This is just about being, like you're saying, a good person. Don't be an asshole. Yeah. Like, if you look at the steps, dude, the average old lady down the street that's never done a drug in her life does this shit normally.
Exactly.
She's just a good person.
We're just so entitled, though. I remember, my first year, and it was a big deal, right? And I went out to lunch afterwards, and then year number 2, I don't think my parents called me. And I was so upset, right?
How could they not?
And somebody said, you expect your parents to call you and say congratulations for doing what every other productive member of society does? Like, I'm not unique. I'm not special, And it's hard because I think it's just in our nature. We are so entitled, Like, I expect my parents to basically give me a pat on the back because, I'm raising a child and working and being a productive member of society, We're
not going to reward you for not being a fuck up anymore.
Exactly.
Like, congratulations. Like, what are we going to go give OJ a ribbon when he doesn't kill someone? Maybe that's not a good example, but you know what I mean. Like,
being entitled is like one of the major parts of addiction. Anyway,
you know what I used to tell people when I worked in treatment? I used to say, if you want a really good example of self-pity or entitlement, come hang out at a treatment center for a day. Because the entitlement, I think that's the characteristic that I dislike the
That's
most.
like the biggest characteristic I can't fucking
Me too. I just can't even like. I just can't take it, and I think a lot of it is going back to what we were talking about before that you didn't have was that unlimited swipe of that insurance card.
Well, and I think though
that safety net gives these kids like an
it's
entitlement.
like smokers that
You
quit
want to
smoking,
kick me out?
like can't stand people that smoke anymore. Like
Yeah, right.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, and if you stop using, it's like fucking entitled people like really get to me.
Yeah. Entitlement eats up at me too, but we got to fight resentments. I can't expect people to do anything. Expectations or resentments under construction. But what do you do now? What's your job now? What do you do exactly?
So I am running the alumni program for Daylight.
Okay.
Which is really amazing because I was doing some outreach and business development and just seeing some things, and it was starting to kind of suck my soul,
Sure.
Clients getting paid to go to treatment centers and, you work so hard with a client and their family and then this person offers them 2 cartons of Newports to go here and, it was really starting to get to me.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to come back to Daylight full time and an opportunity presented itself at the perfect time. And, so now I get to deal with the clients. And I don't really have to deal with the other people in the industry, like the outreach. And so it's great.
It gets rid of a lot of the shadows.
Yeah.
You just get to get right into the meat and potatoes.
It does. And the cool thing is, I've been with Daylight for well over a year now, running groups. And so I know a lot of the clients. And so we've got this meeting on Thursday nights, and there's like 7 people that I know that
you've built this relationship with.
They were in PHP with me.
Come full circle.
And they have jobs and apartments and 2 of them got married and had twins, and he opened up his own business, and so
their story is one of my favorites. We won't say any names. But the Raiders suck. Go ahead.
They're just they're incredible. I actually got to hold the babies last week. It was so cool. But so I get to see the few successes because the odds are.
Did they come to treatment as a couple?
Yes.
They did.
They did. And that's actually one of Debbie's favorites all-time stories too. Like when I interviewed Debbie and said like because you guys see so much of the negative, like you said, which is why it's so good to see some of the positive, and we always celebrate the negative. Like it really bothered me with the Demi Lovato thing because it was like we didn't hear anything about the 8 years before about how she helped and was an advocate. We heard about an overdose. That's what was on the news. So, I mean, it's just human nature where, the news goes to negative, but we need to start highlighting the positive.
Look, sometimes that person needed that one more overdose to get her shit together and not use anymore. That happened. That's not like an uncommon thing.
That could be the last wake-up call. Yeah.
Relapsing and people that you didn't, maybe hopefully not overdose, but maybe people needed that one more relapse.
Yeah, and that's just a page in the story of a champion.
Yeah.
If you read the book about Muhammad Ali, it's not all winning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the struggle. So like even her, going through everything with her dad and the eating disorder and going through multiple treatments and all that was just all chapters in the story of a champion. You know what I mean? So if you're struggling right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Right?
So what else do you have going on?
Yeah.
So I teach yoga at a couple centers, which it's fun. I get to do what I love to do. I do meditation groups at one, and then I've got this alumni program, which is brand new. We're actually doing our first event this weekend.
Okay.
Which is really exciting.
Yeah, tell me about that so I can help.
You're venturing out into the entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of things in the works. But for me, so I went from, not even being able to keep a 10-hour-a-week job at a surf shop, right, to now I've got so much on my plate, and I'm trying to find balance, and, you know, that's been a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, I think, you know, my main focus right now is the alumni program, and, you know, my heart belonged to Daylight from the second I stepped foot in there. It just...
that's the home base.
It is the home base, and, you know, being with a facility that I would send a family member to, you know, and I truly believe in the program, and, you know, every single staff member I feel is there for the right reason. You know, we don't have people just coming to collect a paycheck, and it's such a beautiful thing to go, you know, to the detox, and like the chef comes out and sits with a client at the table and we'll talk to them, or, you know, the housekeeper is walking around like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? You know, and that's not the norm in this industry.
From the bottom to the top, everybody's in it to win it.
Everybody.
What is your, so what, you don't have to go on about Daylight because I'm sitting here. I want to know more about what you're doing.
What am I doing as far as the program?
Business-wise.
And not only that, like, how can we support you?
Yeah.
And how can someone out there that might go, hey, that's actually the lady that I relate to.
Yeah.
How can I get in touch? There's a girl out there watching right now that's going,
who wants to start her own business,
if
or
I
start
or even she's the chick that's hungover going to meetings.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I would say the first step is to always reach out, you know, and I'm on social media. Jacqueline Manley is my name on social media.
And that's Manley.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
And you can always also follow the Daylight page. We have our alumni group within my social media and the Daylight page.
So there's a link to the alumni page through Daylight's website, so they can reach you out there, contact you.
Yeah, and you know, can I give my number out?
Yeah,
Is that fine?
Or Twitter, Instagram, anything.
Instagram, you can find me on Instagram. I don't even know my Instagram name.
You know how you can find it? Go to Jacqueline Manley's Facebook page.
My Facebook.
And you can see the link to the Twitter. Or the Instagram.
To the Instagram. My number is 561-345-0403. My phone is on 24/7. And I love nothing more than when people reach out and want help. And, you know, if it's, you know, a meeting that you're looking for, or, you know, if you need an IOP program or a women's group.
Or some people need one-on-one individual addiction coaching.
Exactly.
So she's available for that too, guys. This is someone that has
That's
lived
getting
it.
to be a big thing now, I think. I mean, I don't know that much about it.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention it too when you were saying like smart. You were saying other alternatives that you've seen people go through. I know people that are in long-term recovery that have, like you, less meetings over time after that really solid foundation was built.
Yeah.
But now they do more one-on-one work with like an addiction specialist.
Absolutely.
And then a little bit of meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself in therapy 2 years ago, you know, just to process my dad's death. You know, and that was huge for me because, you know, I wasn't quite comfortable, you know, sharing in a meeting of 50 people and, you know, there's only so much a supporter or a sponsor can do. And so I went back to therapy for a couple of months. And I think for me, like, I got sober, and my mindset for the longest time was, well, you're sober, like, get your shit together, right? And sometimes my shit is not together, and that's okay, too.
She's human.
I'm human, you know? At the end of the day, I don't dump vodka down my throat, and that's a success.
That's
you know?
a winning day. But no, we do get overzealous sometimes. You know, I think it was right around when I got a year. I had like 4 H&I commitments. I was like sponsoring a couple guys, and I was working full time as like managing an IOP. Like, what was I thinking? Like, what? Like, I just thought I tried to do too much. Like, I think in my head it was like I lost so much time. Now I don't have enough time. But I need to just take it easy.
Yeah, take it slow. You know, like where I was at a year ago, I couldn't picture myself where I'm at today, right? So rewind to 8 years ago, I never would have imagined this, right? And it was baby steps. You know, this all started with me getting a call from this crazy center that it was primarily mental health, and they had substance abuse, and they said, we need a group facilitator. And I'm like, I am 9 months sober. I don't know what I'm doing. And I sat in on one group and they gave me all the PHP groups to do. And I had to learn for myself, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is good because, you know, I remember going to Hanley to the bookstore and just
you had to
getting
really
like
seek out how
every
to do this.
single workbook and worksheet. And then over time, you know, I used to go in and prepare for a group and have the whole, you know, 3-hour slot of time, you know, and now I just go in and, you know, it kind of...
Because it's already in there.
It's in there. And a lot of times, you know, just having a conversation with a client or where they're at and, you know, that spins off into a whole hour-long conversation, right? And,
yeah, that needed to happen
I
at
could
that
never
moment.
be a group facilitator.
it's hard
I'll
sometimes.
be like, dude, you're not done. You're not done. Go.
You're not done.
Well, and that's the
Leave my
thing.
class.
And we see
You're
that.
not
but-
done. Go.
There's, you know, there's a loving way to say, and listen, I get cursed out, you know, numerous times a week by, I mean, it just happened last week.
Hurt
where
people.
I was trying to help someone, you know, move on to another facility because, you know, the facility that
Wasn't
they were
a good
at,
fit.
it wasn't a fit, you know, and they just weren't open to anything.
And then it was
Really-
your fault in that moment.
Well, they wanted benzos. That's a
Yeah.
thing now, benzo maintenance. That's a whole nother topic. But
Well, we'll talk about that on another
yeah,
show.
they just weren't ready, and that was okay, you know. And I always say, like, here's my card, call me. And a lot of times they say, fuck your card, and that's okay, you know.
You're not done.
No, they're not done. And you know, part of me wishes that, you know, back in the day when I was in and out, that my family would have backed off a little and let me, you know, figure it out, because, you know, the time and the money, I mean, my parents probably spent a good $100,000 on treatments
spent more.
and detox. I mean,
I
ridiculous.
didn't, until my parents
Nowadays,
stopped
that's
giving
like
me
2
money.
treatment
I
centers.
wasn't gonna. I didn't do anything.
You know what's crazy? My dad cut me off at 27, and that's when I got.
Mine cut
I
me
was
off
sober.
at like 40.
So what's that tell you guys? When they were cut off is when shit got put
I had to
together.
figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
That's when you
Well,
figure it
we'd
out.
love to have you back on the show. There's a couple other, you know, topic videos that we're gonna do that I think that you would be perfect on the panel for. Guys, if you need help out there, Recovery Shared is your online source for all things addiction and recovery. Subscribe to the page, like our page, comment. If you don't like our page, tell us what you don't like. We'll try to fix it. Guys, if you need help, there's people like Jackie Manley that are out there. Reach her, call her, hit her up on Instagram or Facebook. We're here, guys. Follow Recovery Shared. Hey, thanks for watching Recovery Shared. Please go to our About page on our channel and you'll find links to treatment centers that we've reviewed and recommend. Also on our About page, you'll find helpful links to traditional and non-traditional recovery help. Let's help each other together. We can help save a life.